Amandla. Amandla. Forward to socialist economic freedom. Forward. Forward to economic freedom in our lifetime. Forward. Amandla. Away to long live the Commander-in-Chief. Long live. 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 Amandla. Away to. Thank you very much, President of the Student Command. The Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF has joined the National Students Assembly to come and speak to the delegates, the 588 voting delegates that came. Comrade President, the Student Command National Student Assembly is constituted with delegates from all provinces. And we've got guests from Swaziland. We've got guests that are former officials of the EFF Student Command. So we then, as part of this program, of course, had said that we must be given guidance as conference in terms of what are the expectations of the economic freedom fighters on the young people who have gathered here. So without waste of time, fighters, delegates, I want to introduce a revolutionary, a leader of the economic emancipation movement. The economic emancipation movement that does not only exist here in South Africa, but inspires revolutions and activism in the entire African continent and the African diaspora. Comrade President. Amandla. Amandla. Viva EFF, viva. Viva EFF, viva. I will EFF, I will. I will EFF, I will. Tata EFF, Tata. Tata EFF, Tata. Thank you very much, Deputy President, members of the Central Command team who are here, the guests of the Student Command, Comrade President of the Student Command, delegates to the 4th National Student Assembly, delegates of the youth component of the mighty economic emancipation movement, the oil that has turned the wheels of the revolution in all histories of struggle. We have gathered here for the first time in 3 years because of the disruption caused by COVID-19. The leadership of the EFF Student Command has led with grace period as a result of this, with a longer term than usual, and probably thought the day where they are relieved of their duties will never come. But today we are here. It has arrived, and depending on how dynamics unfold, you will be returning to the very ground that you rose from all those years ago to become ordinary members after your lengthy term in office. Fellow comrades, we have gathered you here to hold a festival of ideas and so mark yourself in history as a unique generation. We have gathered you here to give you an opportunity to be the student movement that develops a definitive plan to achieve free, well-resourced, and decolonized education. You are here from all corners of the country
to provide the EFF, the mother body, and the EFF Student Command with a line of march. Comrades, you must, on the basis of your 7 non-negotiable principles, develop a program of action that will rescue South African students, the higher education sector, and all young people in South Africa. You must do this on the basis of ideas and genuine love for the youth, and not in pursuit of positions, tenders, or being part of the corrupt network in the institutions of higher learning. This is because we know that there is an emerging tendency in the student movement to contest power for the wrong reasons. We are aware that generation of brave young people who have shed blood in defense of the right to education are being betrayed by a class of young people who see student leadership as a way of making money. You have been corrupted at a young age and have begun resembling that which you fought against when you were established in 2015. When this student command was formed, it was a selflessness and loved poor black student that defined it. It was your availability to serve and sacrifice, even though you were already safely in the system. It was your ability to take rubber bullets, arrest, suspension, and expulsion, all to ensure that no one is turned away from the gates of learning, even though you were already registered and on course to finish your degree. That is, and has been the character of the student command. Selflessness, commitment, and not the tendency we see of being collaborators in blazers and suits. The culture of a complacent student's command that mistakes power as a vehicle for proximity is a foreign culture in our student command. It is this culture that must be arrested, or the youth will not see a difference between you and those who serve the interest of the establishment and only audition for political power. The student command must respond to the emergence of corruptible leaders, and it must do so decisively. The student command must define itself within the political arena and be known for its ideas and its selflessness. You must become more than a campus movement, because that is what limits you, and in the process creates an elitism that produces corruption. You will become a campus movement because you do not appreciate history and the role an intellectual youth has played in shaping society. The 1976 generation was not a campus generation. They did not limit themselves to campus battles because they knew the problems of the campus began in society. The problem of the campus are produced by how society is structured and who dominates society at that particular time. There are no problems in campuses that do not find their roots in the national question and national problems of the country. That is what Onkgopotse Tiro understood. That is what Strin Moodley, Tsietsi Mashinini, and Steve Biko understood, that there was no possibility of campus liberation in an oppressive society. You cannot achieve free education on campus while your government implements austerity measures and cuts TVET's infrastructural grants, practically collapsing higher education. It is not possible to contribute to build more learning institutions and residences when your government and the majority of African people are tenants. The struggle cannot be waged outside responding to the land question. That is why your first principle is to mobilize students behind the struggle for economic freedom. You are not anti-capitalist, anti-tribalist, anti-sexist, and anti-imperialist in your campus's outlook, but in your world outlook. So our concern is, what is the EFF Student Command position on matters of national and international significance? What is the EFF Student Command position on substance abuse and on youth unemployment? And what initiative has the student movement taken to address these challenges? We are interested in the position of the student movement on the energy crisis, independent power producers, renewable energy, and the discourse around the imperialist agenda to force South Africa to abandon coal? Where are the engineering students of the left, and what is their position? Where are the leftist medical science students, and what has been the posture of the student movement in the debate for the state to create its own pharmaceutical capacity, especially after we became beggars of vaccine during the COVID-19 pandemic? Where are the students of the Tibet sector, and what is their role in the debate for massive industrialization, and what is their leftist contribution in the revolution for a string vocational sector that will resemble China and grow our economy? We know you have fought for clearance of debt. We know you have fought for free registration, but after registration period, we do not feel the presence of the EFF Student Command. After your brave efforts during Sizofunda Ngenkani campaign, where does the student movement go? And why does it disappear from national discourse? This conference, and through your commissions, must answer these critical questions. Comrades, despite these challenges, the work you have done has had tremendous impact on the lives of ordinary people. It has shaped the past, the future, and the present. You have been the part of the gallant struggle and sacrifice, at times even your own lives. It is the loyalty to the ideas that gave birth to this movement that will sustain you, which is a Marxist, Leninist, Fanonian ideas. It is an appreciation of the Marxist diagnosis of capitalism and dialectics, understanding that in your context, you are fighting against commodification of education. You are fighting against education being means of reproducing the social condition that sustain capitalism, and reading education as a means of wealth accumulation. You are Leninist because you appreciate that liberation cannot be achieved outside of a principled political organization against the system. You must appreciate the role of the vanguard party in leading society out of the grip of imperialism and contesting electoral power to push the system to its limits in service of the people. You do not contest SRC election for blazers, status, or to improve your CVs. You contest that space to bring consciousness into it and create conditions which are conducive for a socialist agenda. You are a Fanonian because you appreciate that the color of our skin makes us a hated people, and we need to decolonize the mind and soul and find ourselves and our existence outside of it being determined by white supremacy. We are Fanonian because we understand that black people are alienated from a sense of self. We understand that the former liberation movement decay and betray the revolution and require a replacement, but fundamentally, we understand that the process of colonialism was violent and therefore requires a violent response. That is who we are. That is what must distinguish us. That is what must distinguish this student movement from the rest, which have produced a shallow middle class interested in its own self-enrichment. Combatants and comrades, we must cement that ideological understanding of ourselves, otherwise we can be manipulated and get lost in the wind. We are here today to reflect, but most importantly, have a deeper understanding of the importance of education. We are here to think of education as a service, as a duty, as a means of achieving the highest sense of humility. My role here today is not to tell you to be activist. It is not to tell you that the road will be easy or that the journey to self-enrichment begins in a book. My simple task is to impress on you that you must add value into society. Your education must add value to the aspirations of our people. Your education must not be about yourself, otherwise you have missed what education is about. Education is service to Africa. It is about bettering humanity, even if that begins with bettering self, as long as your education inspires something. That is the essence of what you were fighting for during Feast Must Fall. That is the essence of decolonization, because decolonization is not complex terminology. Decolonization is a quest to make education relative to the social condition confronting us. What is colonization? Decolonial scholar Torres writes that coloniality refers to long-standing patterns of power that emerge as a result of colonialism, but that defines culture, labor, relations, and knowledge production well beyond strict limits of colonial administration. When we say education must be decolonized, we are referring to making it accessible to those who have been historically excluded. We are speaking about an education that responds to a history of erosion, oppression, and misrepresentation of African identity. Decolonization is a quest for humanity. It is a journey to see ourselves in what we learn and learn what we can become within confines of literature. It is the basis for seeking to build a better world. What is scary and anxiety-inducing about decolonization is that it is disruptive. It challenges the status quo belief of what we think is the norm, but change must not be feared. Decolonization is important across many fields and necessary. Scientists, engineers, mathematicians who have no appreciation of the need to make knowledge responsive to the needs of society view their field as a means of accumulating wealth, whereas wealth is useless in an unjust society. We need ways of thinking and being that alters our relationship and understanding of education. We need engineers who respond to structural needs of the villagers from Matatiele to Lobahom. There is a need for engineers who can plot integrated railway networks and forms an alternative energy that will not make human labor absolute in the way that machines seem to be doing in modern society. We need scientists who center the developmental needs of Africa and whose research is based on the environment we live in. We need a socialist environmentalist who will hold capital and capitalists who pollute the earth accountable and not force us as Africans to abandon natural resources while we contribute the least pollution. Our scholars and historians, our literature must reflect Africa as a contributor to the history of humanity. Our history must tell the tales of African medicine, spirituality, engineering, architecture, and resistance to colonial domination. The resources and gifts you have been given of leading the youth must be responsive to these needs. That is what you learn. That is the type of humanity we envisage. I will, however, be committing a betrayal if I am not to give some clarity on the ideological learning makes the most logical sense in the context of society today. It is undeniable fact that capitalist modes of production have failed. Society is in a permanent state of war, poverty, and monopoly of wealth in the hands of the few under capitalism. As a young generation, you must be able to respond to this. You must be able to assess whether the current economic system, which is defined by liberalism and capitalism, is conducive to building a better society. Comrades, you must make education fashionable, because education is not about what you have achieved as an individual, but it is about how much impact you make in society. Have you become a tool that society can rely on, or you are educated for yourself, not only for yourself but also for your family? We don't want educated people who only exist for their own families. We want educated people who exist for the entire village. We want you, when you graduate, the entire village must ululate in celebration that indeed we have produced one of our own who will serve as a point of reference and also inspire the many, many coming generations. Comrades, it is that very logic that blinds black people in South Africa into a state of doubt and inability to affect change to their spiritual and material realities as the only knowledge and production they have had access to, be that which has been deposited to them by white people. The analogy of a banking system of knowledge is an ironic truth of reflection of capitalist modes of knowledge production and their purpose, and is what characterizes relationship of learning at institutions of higher learning. Knowledge is imparted by white lecturers and professors who carry with them the racist and capitalist bases that make up their identity. It is imparted to unsuspecting and unquestioning students who must accept curricula as is. The purpose of decolonizing, therefore, is to undo the uneven relationship of knowledge production and ensure that education is in sync with the material, spiritual, and theoretical needs of contemporary African society. Comrades, when you fought for free decolonized education, you were fighting to identify yourself in the curriculum, because the curriculum you received you could not relate to and could not respond to a material condition. Comrade President of the Student Command, we have seen a case of Mthokozisi Ntumba in Braamfontein going through without any form of protest outside court by the Student Command. And Ntumba was killed because they suspected he was fighting for you. We have seen many young people get raped in the campuses. We have seen many young people being killed in the campuses. But I'm still to see a march of a student command to the Department of Justice or to any police station, or to go and report the police who killed Ntumba to IPID. If I were to ask you, what is the case number of Mthokozisi Ntumba, you will not have an idea, because you are concentrating on something else other than that which matters in the eyes of young people. We must seek justice for Mthokozisi Ntumba because he was killed for us. And therefore, if we allow him to die in vain, it means we will sacrifice many others who are going to come after him, who are fighting for our rights. Comrades, young women in the campuses must feel safe. Young women in the institutions of higher learning must feel safe. And it is the responsibility of the EFF Student Command to make sure that young women are given a conducive environment to learn and pass. No young woman should sleep with a lecturer for her to pass a particular course. If there is such a lecturer in an institution who want to sleep with young women in order for them to pass, we must see the Student Command in the forefront, confronting that particular lecturer and exposing that lecturer for who he is. We cannot sit back and just gossip about lecturers who are sleeping with young women and we do nothing as a Student Command. We must not seek favors of lecturers, VCs, or management. We must always be on the side of the young people, particularly young women. You are the only youth organization that exists in South Africa today. But where is your voice with regard to the unemployment of young people in South Africa, particularly the young graduates? Where is the Student Command to lead the biggest march in the history of unemployment to demand that all young graduates must be employed, and failure to employ them, they must be given a graduate stipend, because going to school we must be paid for. If we don't get paid for, many young people will not join the ranks of education. We must not destroy the future generation by making the current young graduates look like they've got no value to add in society. The leadership of the student command must lead us to champion that agenda. There is a World AIDS Day coming on the 1st of December. Most people who are affected by HIV and AIDS are young people. I can tell you now, there will not be a single HIV and AIDS program of the student command. But once they say there is an SRC elections, all of you are visible, wanting to contest positions of power, but do nothing with those positions of power, because you have been in the SRC in many institutions of higher learning. Yet, young women are still not receiving free sanitary towels, but it was in your manifesto. You are an SRC in many institutions of higher learning. You have not cut the social budget and replace it with 1 meal at least per day for the poor in the institutions of higher learning. You continued business as usual, as if you are not the radical youth coming from the mother body who is militant and uncompromising in character. Comrades, the leadership of the student command must lead the political and ideological activities in society. You must be a thinking tank of the mother body and not the other way around. We must hear new concepts and new ideas from you. Do not mimic us, challenge us, give us the new styles of dancing, because you cannot dance like us. You must be all-rounders. Do not be old people in young people's bodies. Be the youth. Be ready to commit mistakes. We will condemn you. Be ready to self-correct, because if you repeat a similar mistake, it's no longer a mistake, it's a decision. We want you to be the most troublesome youth of the EFF. We want you to be the most uncompromising youth of the EFF. We want you to be the fire eaters. We want you to challenge the mother body, especially as we get old. We get tempted to agree with the status quo, because we now have many children and they've got many types of demands, and that salary of parliament will not meet those demands. So when we are given opportunities on the side, we get tempted to take them. It must be you who say to us, hey, Udiaye, that is not in line with non-negotiable cardinal pillars of the EFF. You must know the non-negotiable cardinal pillars of the EFF by heart. You must know the constitution of the EFF by heart. You must know the founding manifesto of the EFF by heart, so that when mistakes are committed, you know that this is not in line with the constitution of the EFF. On my way here, I saw some people outside this venue, and then only those people reminded me by their presence outside that that I'm going to a conference, because conference always have friends of conference who just come to a conference uninvited and because they are ill-disciplined. Do not be threatened by people who say you are ill-disciplined. If you do everything in line with the Constitution, in line with the guidelines, as long as you know that that which you are doing is in line with the Constitution, when they say people are ill-disciplined, you know they are not talking about you, because you are not doing anything outside what the Constitution requires. Lenin teaches us that for us to collapse the ruling elite, we need a grounded disciplined leftist organization. In the absence of an organization, there will never be the collapse of the status quo. And therefore, the only disciplined, grounded leftist organization can only exist if it's constituted by disciplined members of that organization. That which makes ZCC is the discipline of its members. When they are told they must not eat pork, they will not eat pork whether the bishop is watching or not watching. And when you give them a sandwich and they doubt that there is pork, they will not eat it. Because they are in doubt. So discipline teaches you that when I'm in doubt, I must not do it. Because it means there's something wrong with it. So when you are called into factional meetings and there is something that says there is something wrong with this meeting, even if you can't put your fingers to it, but there's just something wrong about this, you must know you are in doubt and therefore do not participate, because you do not belong to a faction, but you belong to the organization. There is nothing as nice as belonging to the organization than to belong to individuals and to groupings. Because when you belong to groupings and to individuals, you must always be checking where they are. That time you are sleeping, they send you an SMS, or where are you? We are here at Max's place in Mulas. Or yes, they are going to resolve about leadership. And then you wake up to go there. There is no leadership being discussed. They are drinking alcohol. But you disturbed your peace because affection meets at night in cocoons in darkness. So when you don't belong to such, when they say, where are you? Say, I'm sleeping. And nothing moves in your body. Because you are not going to be elected by a group. You are going to be elected by the organization. And if the organization doesn't elect me, it's not because the organization hates me. It's because the organization says you are not ready yet. You need more other years to be in position of responsibility. Do not be shaken by not being elected. Do not doubt your worth and your leadership capability and capacity because you are not elected. You can lead from behind, because leadership is ideas. These people of the EFF are so rude. They don't even give me water so that I can stop quickly. There is a difference between power and glory. Most people love glory, and they confuse glory for power. And that's what the ANC loves. It loves glory more than power, because glory is to receive the blue light, is for people to open doors for you, is to be given a huge office and do nothing about it. But power is to occupy the office and disrupt the status quo. You use power to make changes. So if you become the president of the student command, the question you must ask yourself is, in the last 3 years, what did I change? Except that I was being called a president. And that is the most fulfilling thing for you. I was called a president, and you confuse that for power. That is not power, that is glory. Power is, we managed to force Wits University to register students who did not have money but they were deserving. We managed to organize a march to Blade in Zimande's office to demand that they must scrap the student debt, because we cannot graduate into a permanent poverty, because this debt is trapping us into a permanent poverty. You should have changed the living conditions of the students of Unive who live in conditions which are worse than the conditions the pigs live in. Through you led a discourse to a point where the university had to renovate the residences of the students. You can't just say, I'm a president of the SRC, therefore I sit in the council. Even though it is my second year, I've got accommodation with the postgrads, and I've got a single room. I also control the freshers' budget, and you use that for corrupt reasons. And then you say you've got power. And even when you leave that position, you say, when we're in campus, we're very powerful. That's the story you go around telling everybody, that when you're in campus, we're very powerful, meaning you are stealing money and buying alcohol and then exchanging boyfriends and girlfriends. And then you call that power. Power is to change the life of an ordinary young African girl who rocked up at campus with borrowed money from the village and does not have money to return back. And you saw her and said to her, you will not go back. You are going to be admitted in this university. You will be given accommodation in this university. You will graduate in this university. As the student command-led SRC, we are going to make sure it happens whether they like it or not. That's power. That when you walk the streets of South Africa, people say, there walks our former president. This guy used to fight for us when we were excluded at school. Not this guy used to exchange girls and boys at school. But the man now. That's your legacy as a president of the SRC. You have nothing concrete to show. Comrades, the EFF must be constituted by selfless people. People who are prepared to share the smallest piece of food. Because that's who we are. We must never derive pleasure out of mocking those who are poor in campuses. Poor people must revive our consciousness and remind us why we are part of the struggle. To see a poor person on daily basis should serve as a charging point for you to continue doing what you are doing. But if you are on your own and you exist for self-glory and to be praised as an individual, once you achieve, you don't care who else is going to achieve. I've made it. We don't want those type of people. The ANC cannot be replaced by an ANC light. The ANC must be replaced by the complete opposite of the ANC, the most militant and radical organization that will not require 5 years to change the simplest things like the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. which they say is celebrated all over the world, yet we are the most unequal in the world. Because the role of the Constitution is to create equality. And if the Constitution has not created equality, it means it has not achieved what it was formed for. And therefore it must be changed. The Constitution of South Africa as is now, it has served its day. It was a constitution that came out of sunset clauses. We now need the sunrise constitution, because the sun can't set permanently. We need a constitution that is going to say the state is the custodian of the land, and that all of you who want more accommodation, no billions of rand must be spent by an institution or government. And land must be expropriated, and we build a new university, we build new residences for free. Why? Because everybody is going to benefit from that land. Why must we pay you money to get the land which is going to benefit literally your own child? Because if you are an owner of the land here in Tefluo, surely your children are going to come to school into this university. So you want us to pay you so that we can educate your children? It can't be. Land that is going to be used for all must be, with immediate effect, nationalized, expropriated without compensation for the benefit of all. Comrades, we want free education for all, not for the poor. We also want to give the rich free education. Because if we say free education for the poor and we exclude the rich, that they must pay, they are going to form their separate education and pay there. We must say free education for all, compulsory for all, and no private education, so that both the rich and the poor learn from the same education and learn the same thing. This thing of independent board of examination, what of private schools, is nonsensical. It's a confirmation of a divided society. There is public education, there is private education. Public means black, private means white. And then they say 1994 came, we achieved our democracy. There is no longer discrimination. There is discrimination. White, non-white. It is just that they gave it new names, public and private. It means the same thing. We want children to go to school next to where they stay. Alexander children stay next to Sandton. In Sandton, there is that school that Vuyan went to, St. David's. That's close to Alexander. The Alexander children must go to St. David's because it's closer to them. And if the whites are going there, let's meet there. We don't want private education. We don't want anyone rich or poor to pay for education. We want all of you to receive one curriculum, to go to the same schools, and that's where we are starting to build a nation. We can't build a nation through division of private and public. South Africa is not a nation yet. Because for us to be a nation, we have to share a common agenda. How do we share a common agenda of a quality education when others are being educated private and others are educated publicly? But we say our vision is that of quality education. If that is the vision of all of us, let there be one education system. Fighters, this country is in the hands of the dogs. And these dogs must be beaten until the owner comes out. Because these people are not the real owners of our country. We need to remove this guy. But Thabo Mbeki is not an alternative neither. Jacob Zuma is not an alternative neither. The EFF is the alternative to the problems confronting the people of South Africa. The ANC must die, and must die a painful death. The ANC must feel the pain our people have felt for more than 20 years under the uncaring leadership of the ANC. I don't understand why there can't be consensus. When a president is caught with money, cash, under mattress, inside sofas, and then we must still debate that. We must debate that with people who are saying they are people of moral high standard during Zuma's time, that they've got a unquestionable morality. When their man is caught with money, we must debate that. That is when you have now abandoned the country for corrupt, selfish reasons. There shouldn't be a debate. And I don't understand why Cyril is also causing us so much pain and saying we are bullying him. There shouldn't be a debate whether Cyril must resign or not. It's automatic. You still want us to debate? We caught him with evidence. And then you want us to debate that he's a criminal. We cannot allow the immoral South African middle class to choose what is moral and what is immoral for us. For a president to be compromised like that, caught with his pants down, and still want to behave like he was caught with his clothes on. But the man is naked. Why did you papa Mari, you are naked. There is no debate about that. But let's wait for Cyril to explain. Explain what? Thabo Mbeki wants to speak like he's a moral authority after he just said to us, let's allow Cyril to explain theft. Let's allow him to explain. That office must be protected with everything. Whether he's wrong or right, the way he acted, it's wrong. Pure gangsterism, pure thuggery. Not only money. You take the helicopter of South Africa without a case number. Police release a police vehicle van. Or motho shule o rapile tsamalo motshwara o sale gana go ba o busy o sale busy ba come and open the case first, and then wait for 24 hours to get a case number. Then with that case number, then we can act. But Cyril is a separate citizen, above the law, no case number, no nothing. He chases people to Namibia. Not only that, with South African Police Services helicopter, going to look for thugs with our helicopter. With our helicopter. And then we must still keep quiet. Leave the money. Leave the money. The man takes police of South Africa to go into a foreign land to go and look for money that was stolen. To go and look for stolen money. Kiditoti, dia kitimishana, ki gangster. Okare shebile movie. Wo uchecha wo. In a typical gangster, but no, let's go for him. But a respectable citizen of South Africa, when they stole from you, the first question is, did you call the police? Did you go to the police station? That was never in Cyril Ramaphosa's head. Urle no ke ba kre a kere ke strata le kwa tsipa la gangster pur o latella ditsotsi ba tshwara ditsotsi jela re dila ka eng di resource tsa rena di tsamai ba ba tshwara ba ba tlisha konto. Another gangsterism, abaru ba tshwara ba no, let's take them to the police. They go to the house and torture them, and torture the female domestic worker. After torturing that female domestic worker, he comes here and says, we must defend women and gender, and that time he just violated the rights of a female domestic worker in his house. And then you guys come and say, let's still have debate. Let's leave the money. Let's go to subs. Let's go to torture. The whole president torturing in his house. And remember, we're talking Pala. There is still Sandest. There's still Soweto. There is still Venda. There is still Cape Town, where monies are stored under mattresses. And Mpumalanga, we asked him the question of Parliament, how much is left in these other properties, because they are talking about one property. All the properties have got money stored. And to show that ANC is constituted by sick people, they still call such a person their president, who had them starving for 6 months last year, including in December, the workers. No salary, no nothing. Cyril's conscience doesn't even say, let me take a bit here. We're talking billions. Billions. Let me take a bit here and give to the ANC poll to find a way of giving these people a salary. I told you of selflessness just now. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have just the sympathy of those workers who work for his party to get a salary. That time he's sleeping on top of billions. So we are in a consultation with everyone, including the most reactionary organizations. We have reached a point where we no longer care. This man must go. And we will remove him whether he likes it or not. We cannot be led by gangster. So when we call for mother of all shutdown, every campus in South Africa must come to a standstill. and not only students, including the workers themselves, who are going to say, we are not going to school, we are not going to teach, we are not going to clean, we are not going to manage. We are going to defend South Africa against gangsterism, because South Africa has been captured by gangsters. When we call for the mother of all shutdown, the smallest village, if they don't have a transport, they should find themselves bending a tree and singing around the tree. They're now apart. Every corner of South Africa must come to a standstill. That's the power of the organization. And we need to demonstrate to them that we are not scared of Rupert, we are not scared of Minel, we are not scared of the Oppenheimers, we are not scared of America or Britain, we are not scared of France. We are not colonial subjects. We are beings of our own and can determine our own destination. We will not allow the imperialists to impose their puppets on us and we do nothing about it. Let's show imperialism that we are a different kind of a generation. We are not our grandmothers. We know a puppet when we see one, and that puppet shall be confronted. Because this man is a representative of imperialism. His job is to continue the legacy of apartheid and colonialism, and he must be stopped. 9 years of wasted, 9 years of Zuma. It looks like that Zuma thing was a picnic. Cost of living is too high. It's too high. We are even unable to go and take oil from Russia because Sitweri power on behalf of those who are fighting Russia. Singenapi. All we want is oil. Let them fight there. They must not involve us in their problems. No, yes, chosen side. So the cost of living is going to be extremely too high in the next few months, not years. As the war continues, as the isolation of Russia continues. You need a brave government that is going to say, we belong to BRICS, we are going to work with BRICS to make sure that we defend ourselves against imperialism. We are not saying Russia is leftist and progressive, but at least there is an alternative being created. Let there be competition, and we will choose which side we want to be, because that's what democracy is about, the right to choose. Not this thing that America is doing to us, imposing who we can trade with, who we can't trade with, even when we are swimming in a pool of poverty and hunger. We've got so much we can give to Russia. Not even money. We have so much we can give to Russia in exchange for oil. Once we drop the oil price in South Africa, everything goes down. Our problem is the oil. Now, they are coming again. They say, close all the coal stations, power stations. Close them. You are polluting. But if you check the biggest polluters in the world, it's the same people who are saying we are polluting. China is building one of the biggest coal power stations as we speak now. But we are told we must close ours. Imagine what's going to happen to Mpumalanga. The day you close those coal mines in Mpumalanga, there will be nothing left of those people. But equally, we will not have a reliable energy, because we are not opposed to renewable. We are not opposed to independent power producers. But we cannot rely on the weather alone. That today there is no sun, therefore there is no electricity. We need to use coal to build an alternative energy and build our economy like they did. The so-called developed world, they used the coal to develop themselves. Now that they are fully developed, they say no, close the coal so that we can be permanently poor. If we fail to remove the ANC and for some reason it closes the coal mines, the EFF must be ready to go and mine with or without ANC permission, because those are our mines. We are not part of them. We will mine this coal. If they don't want to use it, we'll take it to those who want to use it in exchange for money, so that we can sustain Mpumalanga and everybody else who relies on coal. We get debated in British Parliament as if we are a British subject or province. ESCOM get discussed by the British Parliament on which direction ESCOM must take, because we are a colonial subject. This country is no longer the colony of Britain. If the ANC gave them that impression, they must know their friend ANC is going away. We are not going to belong to any structure of Britain, including Commonwealth. We are going to withdraw from Commonwealth, because there is nothing common about the Commonwealth except that we're all the subjects of Britain. We don't want to belong to anything that has got to do with Britain. Britain needs us. We don't need Britain. France needs Africa. Africa doesn't need France. The president of France once confessed that if it was not of what we are doing in Africa, there wouldn't be a country called France. It is sustained literally by African minerals and natural resources. So, fighters, please, when you are here, remember that you are here to discuss the alternatives to the challenges that confront us as a country and as a continent. Remember that ours is not only South Africa, it's the African continent. We don't see it here, we see it there, because ours is a giraffe view. So we must make sure that we see the whole of Africa as a better place for humanity, not as a place of rejects and a playground for the imperialist forces. Find solutions to the African problem. You are here as young intellectuals. Use your brain to give us an alternative practical solutions to the poverty of a black man. Tell us, what is it that we can do to love ourselves as blacks and as Africans? Because they've instilled in us the spirit of self-hatred. And that's why when we see other Africans, we see enemies. Because we see ourselves as our own enemy. Let this conference find a solution to a problem of xenophobia and self-hate. Because we will not achieve any of the things we spoke about here in isolation. We need the continent to come together. And when we are together, we cannot be defeated by America with its dollar. Because ours is backed by very powerful, high in demand natural and mineral resources. So the EFF Student Command is not a place to play. It's a place where we build the second and third layer leadership for the EFF. You can't be a member of the Student Command and not be a member of the EFF. You are lost. So it means you are eating our food for free. Because we are investing in you, so that when our time comes, you need to come and take over and lead this organization. We don't want a situation when our time comes to leave. When we look at the back, there is no one, because during your student command, you did not join the EFF. You are going to come up here with a solution on how do we help the mother body to reach 1 million members before the end of December. You always say there in the campuses, you win a campus, but when national election come or local election come, you lose that campus. Because student command members are not members of the EFF. They are only concerned with student politics as if you exist in isolation. So I'll propose the constitutional amendment. Those who are going to deal with the constitution here, please consider amending the constitution that before you join the EFF Student Command, you must join the EFF, the mother body first, for you to be accepted as a member of the EFF Student Command. The second amendment I will propose is that before you join the Student Command, you will join the mother body, but also you must be a registered voter on the IEC voters roll. Because when we're registering you for this conference, it was so embarrassing that some of you were not even registered to vote, but you are a delegate to a conference of a political party, yet you are not registered to vote. What a contradiction. But this gives us an opportunity to fix that mistake and make sure that in future when we are sitting like this, we are guaranteed, sure, that here are members of the EFF, here are registered voters on the voters roll of the IEC. Comrade President, we wish you all of the best. We think that you played your role, and I'm not sure if you are still standing. If it was for me, I would advise you to start looking for a job somewhere and then allow the young ones to lead. But you must know that in the EFF, there is no dustbin for children of the EFF. A very bright future is awaiting you. You have demonstrated capacity. You have grown to become one of the well-spoken leader of the EFF. Very articulate, very clear of what the EFF stands for and what the EFF seeks to achieve. And when we say we are producing second and third layer leadership, we're referring to people like you who grasp and understand what this animal EFF is about. So we hope that you have done the same in preparing the second and third layer leadership for the student command. The success of any other leader is to produce leaders. Thank you very much.
Mantha. Thank you very much, Comrade President. I think the message is very clear. So, fighters, delegates, we are going to release the President and Commander-in-Chief so that we continue with what the conference was busy with. It was still discussions of the political report. And then immediately after that, I think the agenda says that will be lunch, and then after lunch, take organizational report, treasurer's report, then dissolve the CICT, and then take nominations for the top 5. So that is what we're going to be dealing with now. Let us all sing as we release the Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF. TJ, what's up here? Of female delegates, and there was not even a single female intervention in terms of the political report. So this is what is going to happen. Before we get the president of the student command to respond to the issues, there must be a new round of hands strictly of female fighters who must speak on the political report. And then there will then be the responses